Welcome back to the Real Estate Investing Fundamentals Masterclass. What we're doing over these next several days, several classes, is we're stacking 8 essential fundamentals that you need to learn to start, build, and scale a successful real estate investing business. Last time we went over mindset, and today we're going to be adding the deal flow fundamental to that stack. And just as before, I am going to be going fast, so get ready to take a lot of notes. Answer this simple question. Do you consider yourself to be risk adverse? Are you afraid of taking risks? Now, ask yourself this question. Would you like to build a business that's 100% risk-free? Kind of a rhetorical question, because sure, we all would, right? If there's like absolutely no risk, why would you not want to do that? Well, I'm sorry. It's really not possible with any business, but definitely not in real estate. There's no way you can remove 100% of the risk, but you can drastically minimize and mitigate your risk to create what's I call asymmetrical risk versus reward. In other words, where your risk is really low and your reward is much higher, significantly higher. And this is what the greatest entrepreneurs and investors in the world do. They minimize and mitigate their risk, and they create asymmetrical risk versus reward. So when they make mistakes by having that, they, like, say the market changes against them, or there was something that they didn't see, and they made a mistake, and things start to move against them. Their downside is capped, but when they're right, they're rewarded like exponentially more than whatever their downside could have been. So who wants to play that game? Like, who's willing to fail a few times to be able to capitalize and take advantage of an upside that can be maybe life-changing? Successful investing is about managing risk, not avoiding it. That quote's by Benjamin Graham. He was Warren Buffett's mentor. So Warren Buffett being the world's most successful investor, well, that guy's mentor. So kind of, words worth really contemplating. It's not about avoiding the risk, because you're not going to do that. It's really about managing and mitigating the risk. Now, Brant likes to say successful investing is about managing your mindset, which we talked about last time, managing your mindset and training it to produce the specific and desirable results that you're seeking. Now, little story time. This is a tale of two flips. My wife and I, we bought both of these properties in 2019, and the home on the left we bought earlier in the year. The one on the right we bought later in the year. Both of these homes were in good neighborhoods. They both had a pool, and they both only needed cosmetic rehab. Both also, unfortunately, sat on the market for a long time. Even after numerous price reductions, they just sat on the market and would not sell. And not wanting to rent out a higher end home, at least with a pool, I cut the one on the left cut it loose, and ended up losing like $35,000. Not fun. Like, that sucks. But when you're flipping 40 houses a year, you can absorb 1 or 2 losses. It's never fun, but you can do it. Now, the second one is a little different. I could have cut that loose too. And had I done that, I would have also lost money. But instead, I capped the downside by renting it out. And at this point, I realized that I was making some mistakes in my business. I wasn't following the fundamentals properly. I was paying more for deals that had very thin margins. So what I did is I went back and reviewed those deals to see what was going wrong, like what I was doing, and how I could change some of our systems and processes, modify them to where I don't make that mistake again. And also, I made the decision that, hey, when I do get a flip, that it's what I call a bad flip, meaning we're not going to hit our target profit. When I do get that, I'm not just going to sell it for a loss. Um, Instead, I'm going to rent it out. And that's what we ended up doing on the second property. We could have sold it for a loss, but and that's if we would have stuck to our guns and hey, we're flipping this house. Could have done that. Definitely could have done that. But instead, I decided to cap my losses and or at least cap my downside. And I rented it out. Now, this was about $200 a month negative cash flow, which is not really great. It's a lot better than losing 35 grand, but $200 negative cash flow, and we owned it for about 3 years. And we sold it in 2023 for a profit. Now, when we implemented this strategy and started capping our downside on the rental side, whenever we started doing this like kind of review process of how we're managing our flips, we made a few changes. One, we made sure that, hey, look, we need to, because we were getting away from one of our fundamentals of having multiple exit strategies. So we needed to get back into that. So if we do rent it out, it's at least break even, but probably positive cash flow. And when we started doing that, nearly every bad flip that we had ended up selling at a profit later on and also had positive cash flow. And by doing that, actually, I ended up coming with a whole new business strategy or investment strategy called I call it the slow flip strategy. And I'm going to talk about that in one of the other fundamentals. You'll learn about that later. But that's how we ended up capping the downside and ultimately helping our business be more profitable as opposed to losing money. So when you learn how to minimize and mitigate risk, it's just really hard for you to fail long term. It's just hard to do that. When you have the right mindset and work ethic and you start putting these fundamentals into action, you will succeed. If you remember last week, we talked about how like 9 out of 10 businesses fail, but there's also 9 out of 10 businesses succeed. And those are the businesses that have the systems and processes that are proven. And when you follow those and you mitigate your risk and you minimize your risk, it's really, really difficult to fail in this business. And really, you only fail when you quit. Success in real estate can be created through the execution of the 8 fundamentals, which are the components of a franchise system that have been proven to work when properly applied. Now, if you don't have consistent deal flow, which this really it really impacts your business. If you don't have consistent deal flow, you don't have a business. But also, you end up taking on more risk because you feel like you have to be competitive. And then it's also, part of the reason why we made some bad decisions on certain flips, definitely not all the bad flips, but on certain ones, it was just because we didn't have enough deals coming in at that particular moment. So we had to, work with what we got, made bad decisions. But when you have consistent deal flow, it makes this game a lot easier because then you can really start to follow the fundamentals like you're supposed to be doing anyway, and cherry pick the best deals to make sure that you're not getting yourself into mediocre or thin margin deals that might end up getting you in trouble later on. But beyond that, if you don't have consistent deal flow, you don't have a business. Now, you might have a hobby, and that's okay. It's okay to have a hobby and a kind of a side gig where you're buying occasional rental property here and there. Great wealth building strategy, build up some cash flow, or you're flipping a house here and there, building some extra cash. That's all great. It's not a business, but it can be a profitable hobby. That's okay if you want to do that. Now, when marketing, there's a few important metrics you want to make sure you're tracking. These are also called KPIs or key performance indicators. And you may not know these today, but you should definitely know them moving forward in your business. First, we got cost per lead or CPL, which is how much every lead is costing you. And then we have cost per result or CPR. Now, cost per result can also be called cost per deal, which is different than cost per contract because not every contract will end up becoming a deal. Some contracts fall out for whatever reason. So cost per result being the actual end event that you're trying to get. In our case, it's actually closing on a house, right? Then you have your return on ad spend, which is ROAS, return on ad spend. For every dollar you spend in advertising, marketing, how much money are you getting back? And then a couple other questions you want to ask yourself: how much are you willing to pay for a deal? And this goes into more of the type, and we'll talk more about this later on. But the type of deal. Are you, focusing on luxury housing, more like Class B neighborhoods, for rental properties? How much are you willing to pay for any particular deal? And then how much of your time are you willing to invest in each deal? Because those two questions really matter, especially when you consider like you can go into a full gut job, like to a flood house, or you want to do more of a cosmetic rehab, fix and flip, lipstick on a pig, rent it out. Now, or actually, just think about this. If your cost per result, CPR, or cost per deal, if it was $5,000, meaning for every $5,000 you spend, you get a ROAS, your return on ad spend is $20,000. So for every $5,000 you spend, you get $20,000 back. How many deals could you do? All of them, right? Like a lot. So, I mean, at that point, everything changes. Really, when you understand that, you get your numbers dialed in, and sure, yeah, that kind of seems like it's common sense, right? Well, how do you achieve that? And how do you achieve the deal consistency to where you can have those kind of results? And it really just comes down to consistent and effective marketing. You have to be marketing. And when you do that, your marketing budget is essentially the gas pedal for your business, right? How fast do you want to go? How many deals do you want? Your marketing budget is going to determine that. Now, before we move on, I want to take just one step back. I want to clarify something. What is the difference between marketing and branding? Let me know in the comments if you know the difference between marketing and branding. Marketing is the promotion of your product or service. And in the case of what we're talking about here, it's you buying houses. Now, branding, on the other hand, is the story behind why your company even exists. So in other words, branding is the relationship you have with your target audience, and marketing is transactional sales. Does that make sense? Any guess to what these companies spend their money on? Like nearly all, I'm talking about nearly 100% of all of their money that's going to go into marketing or branding. Where do they spend it? Branding. Not even a question. Branding. Starbucks doesn't need to convince you to buy their coffee. Instead, they tell their story so consistently that when you're driving down the road and you want a cup of coffee, you automatically look for a Starbucks. Not even a question in your head. Where's the nearest Starbucks? Nike doesn't need to pitch you on a promotional offer to buy their shoes. When you want a new pair of shoes, you go and buy a Nike or whatever that brand is that you have connected with. They don't have to sell you on those things. So what should you spend your time on, marketing or branding? And the short answer is both. The rest of the class, I'm going to be focusing on marketing specifically. But I do want to point out the difference, because the stronger your brand is, the less marketing you have to do. And if you want to look at, the extreme examples of the Starbucks, the Coca-Cola, the Nikes and all that, where like basically all their money is branding, they don't really have to spend much on marketing. They're not trying to pitch you on some promotional advertisement to go out and buy a new Nike or buy a Starbucks. As your business grows, just know that spend more time and resources on brand. It's definitely playing the long game. The ABC mindset. So you probably heard of or the ABM mindset. Sorry, you probably heard of ABC, right? Always be closing. Well, the ABM mindset is always be marketing. If you're serious about your business, especially if you are or want to be in this business full time, you have to always be marketing, and you got to be marketing for two things: deals and dollars. Deals and dollars. Always be marketing for deals and dollars. In another session, and we'll talk about marketing for dollars, specifically private money lenders. But in this session, we're going to be talking about marketing for deals. But the real question is how? How do you market for deals? Well, I can tell you one thing. Waiting on other people to bring you deals might not be the best strategy. If you want to be in control of your business and the growth of your business, you have to treat it like a business, not a hobby. Treat it like a business, and that requires having an effective sales funnel. You've probably already heard that term, sales funnel. You may be aware of what a sales funnel is, especially if you already have a business or maybe you're involved in the sales process of your job. Probably know what a sales funnel is. A sales funnel is essentially the process of how customers interact with your business from the very first impression through conversion. At the top of the funnel, you have awareness. That's when a prospective lead, your target audience, has been made aware that your company even exists. So before that point, they don't even know you exist. Through awareness, you let them know, hey, I exist. Then, in awareness, you're doing this through ads, social media posts, networking, word of mouth, just to name a few. Basically, any communication towards your target audience that lets them know you exist. Now, one step down from that is interest. So your target audience has someone within your target audience has taken that step to express interest in your company. That's when they become a lead. And more specifically, in this case, they're an engaged lead because they have taken that step to engage with your company in some form or fashion. Maybe they submitted an online form, maybe they called you or commented on a social media post or emailed you or whatever. They have expressed interest in your company by engaging with you. And then the next step after that is decision. And this is both sides because it's a decision for you and the lead. For you, you have to decide if they're even a qualified lead. And for them, they have to decide if they want to continue down this path for your company, with your company, like that, they like and trust trust that you're able to solve their problem, and they're wanting to move forward. So this is a decision for both of you. If you've determined that, hey, they're a qualified lead, and then they have determined that they want to work with you, then they want to do business with you, and that brings you to the action stage. And at least in this business, that's where you're actually closing on their house and you're solving their problem. So awareness, that's the top of the funnel. It's where you're communicating with your target audience. Interest is lead generation. Decision is lead qualification. And then action is closing. So this entire process, it starts with generating awareness with your target audience. But before you can even do that, you have to begin with the end in mind. So ask yourself, what, where, who, and how? What, where, who, and how? What kind of deals do you want? Where are those deals? And who has those deals? How are you going to get those deals? We're going to walk through each one of these questions. First is what? What kind of deal do you want? It really starts off with asset type. Since most of you are interested in single family, that's where I'm going to spend most of this masterclass. But asset type, that's really where you cut out. I mean, you can't, in real estate, there's so many different asset types. You got single family, multifamily, mobile home parks, self-storage, land, industrial, office, retail. You got flex industrial. There's just so many different ways that you can divide up real estate and different asset sectors you can focus on. But you do need to focus on one, especially in the very, very beginning. You become more diversified later on, but for now, focus on one. We're going to be talking about single family. Pretty much everything else I talked about here, it relates to the other ones. But ultimately, you need to figure out which asset class you want to talk about. And then next, what does that asset type look like? Because in the case of single family, you can't just say, hey, I'm interested in single family homes. And then like all single family homes, you don't even care what it is. I mean, is that really true? Do you want to invest in a $10 million mansion? Do you want to invest in a home that was built in the 1800s? I'm talking about like New England homes. We don't have those in Houston. But like, what does that look like? What does the value of that property look like? How many beds? How many baths? How old is it? How big is it? Do you want to buy a home that's 6,000 square feet? Or do you prefer something that's maybe around 2,000 square feet? And then where's it located? You can't just look for single family homes even single family homes that are worth between $200,000 and $300,000. You can't just do that, because are you going to buy that single family home that is in rural parts of Alaska? So narrow that down by, it's probably going to be your home market, maybe not. Because if you live in San Francisco, I mean, especially depending on your strategy, it might not work for those type of homes. You may actually need to invest in another market that's a lower price. So, but you can narrow that down by county, city, subdivision, zip code. Now, my target, now, and also I am more focused on multifamily these days, but if a good single family property meets this target, I am interested. So, hey, anyone finds one of these in my target area, I'm definitely interested. 3 to 4 bed homes, 2 baths, mostly brick, 1983 or newer. The reason why I have 1983 is I want to make sure, one, we don't have lead-based paint, and also galvanized piping. We don't have those. So it kind of eliminates a couple surprises or big costs that I may have to deal with. Square footage between 1,000 and 2,500 square feet. And that's mainly just because those are better renters. You get a better rent to price ratio. Greater Houston metro area, class B and C neighborhoods with a cash on cash return of 8+%. Throughout most of my investing career, the cash on cash return has been like near infinity because I've had almost no money in the deal. Then a little bit different situation now. So 8+% cash on cash return. Now, who is your seller? So or as far as who has the type of property that you're looking for. So we talked about what your target property is, your ideal property. Who has that property? In the case of single family homes, there's really two types of homeowners. They're either owner occupants or absentee owners. Like that's it. An owner occupant, kind of self-explanatory, means the owner actually lives in the home. An absentee owner just means the owner does not live in the home. It's either a rental property, it's maybe a secondary or vacation home that just stays vacant most of the year, or it's just a vacant home. But I mean, it really revolves around, it's one of those two. It's very binary. And then equity, like how high do you want the equity? With if you're trying to buy homes at 50%, 50 cents on the dollar, then you can't target homes that maybe only have 30% equity. You wouldn't be able to like make those numbers work, or it'd be very difficult to make those numbers work because they would have to come to the table with closing unless you're doing like subject to or something like that, which even still in that case doesn't necessarily work. Length of ownership, like do you want them to own it for 20 plus years? Now, when we were targeting owner occupants, we did like longer length of ownership because they were able to build up equity. But for absentee owners, we found that, and this just for us in our market, the length of ownership didn't matter as much because sometimes people would be an absentee owner because they inherited the property. So they've only owned it for 1 year, but there's no mortgage on it. Like that's a property that is very ideal for us to target. And other times they bought it at a discount, rented it out, and realized like, hey, this thing sucks. I don't like being a landlord anymore. And then we can still get it at a good rate, good price. And then last is urgency to sell. These are some other motivating factors that you can have in: financial motivators, foreclosure, tax delinquents, maybe more situational divorce and probate and those kind of things. So my target using the 80-20 rule, most of our stuff came from absentee owners. By and large, absentee owners was a huge percentage, but also we did get a lot from high equity owner occupants. Now, from the 20%, these were more the niche lists: probate, financial distress, tax, those kind of things. But probate, we target a lot of those. Financial distress is actually, you'd be surprised. At least in our business, most of the homes that we bought, they actually weren't in financial distress. It was more situational. It wasn't necessarily financial, but we did pick up a decent amount in some type of financial distress. It may not have been relating to the specific property. They may have just needed the money for something else that was going on in their life. Now, where is your ideal, what ideal market do you want to target? Now, you have macro market. This is your state, county, metro area. So for me, Houston metro. But that's still a large area. So you really want to narrow that down, especially in the beginning, to more micro markets. This is an actual city, zip code, and neighborhood. This is a screenshot of the an absentee list that I pulled a while back. I'm using ListSource. Now, ListSource, I highly recommend ListSource. It is expensive, but it's a high quality data provider. They're owned by CoreLogic. So very high quality data. You pay for it, but in my experience, paying for better data overall was it was more profitable in the back end versus using outdated data. So anyways, what I did is I used the map tool to draw out areas of Fort Bend County and Harris County. Those are areas in Houston Metro that I was targeting. And then I used other filters such as bed, equity, value of the property to niche down that list even further. So we've covered the questions, what, who, and where. Now it's time to cover the question, how. And the truth is, there's hundreds of ways to find good deals. A few of them include direct mail, driving for dollars, auctions, networking events, expired listings, code violations, door knocking, pay-per-click, social media, MLS, wholesalers, realtors, contractors, friends and family, SEO, and tons of others. I've gotten deals from all of these sources over the years. Now, my advice to you is pick one, stick to it until you master it. And then you can start stacking another lead source on top of it. So a couple of them that I recommend that you consider, at least starting out with, is number one, pay-per-click. And these aren't necessarily in a specific order as far as like how you should start. These are just different ones to consider. But there are others that may make more sense for you that aren't on this list. Pay-per-click, specifically Google Ads. Now, this is a more expensive option to pick, but you do get high quality leads because these are people who are actually going on Google and they're actually searching for you. Direct mail. This is also great. Nearly all of my leads, like 80+%, came from direct mail. It's great because you can get really targeted, especially if you have good data, you get good lists. But it's also expensive. Calling, texting. Now this is a very low cost way to get deals, but and you also have to be careful because there's do not call lists, and you want to make sure that you're following those so you don't get in trouble. But it's going to cost you a lot in time. So cheap financially, it is going to be more expensive in time. And you also need to add value because I know I get a whole bunch of spam calls and spam texts. And what do you do? Like if you get a spam call, like the second, which it usually takes like 0.5 seconds for you to realize it's a spam call. Like, what do? You hang up. You have to add value. So this is a very, very effective, cost-effective way to get deals. And I've got agents on the team that are just crushing at this. But they're doing it by adding value. And so if you can really catch their attention that first 3 to 5 seconds by adding value and catching their attention, adding value, letting them like kind of lower their guard a little bit to kind of hear you out, this can be an absolute gold mine and very low cost way to get deals. Driving for dollars, also low cost, cost a little bit more in time. This is driving down neighborhoods, finding those hidden gems, basically looking for the ugliest house in a neighborhood, the one that looks like it hasn't really been taken care of, high grass, those kind of things. And then content. This is more probably on the branding side than direct marketing. It's very low cost, high return, takes time to build though. So SEO, blogs, videos, content, telling your story. It's something you want to do, but it takes a lot of time. So if you're looking for quick results, like deals over the next 30, 60, 90 days, probably not going to come from content. Can't say it, can't come from content, but probably not. But it is something that if you build it over time, it's very low cost, high return way to get deals. Now, all these strategies work. Always work. You just have to pick one and master it before you start adding another one. Think of your marketing strategies as a lead valve or lead valves. So in the beginning, you have water coming in out of your valve slowly. water leads. So in the beginning, you have water coming out slowly. But what happens? Pressure builds. And as pressure builds, water starts to flow faster, right? Flows faster. And what happens when the water pressure, like if you had that water pressure that was low in the beginning and you open up a whole bunch of valves at the same time and you turn it on. Well, you have low pressure and then you also have a whole bunch of valves open, like it's just barely going to drip, right? Now, what if you open up one valve, you let pressure build, water starts to flow more consistently, and it starts to reach max capacity. So these are water deals, and they're flowing very consistently, and it's harder to increase it because you've kind of maxed that out. Well, at that point, you might want to consider opening up another lead valve, and then do the same thing. Let pressure build on that one, start to master it, and then once that one gets close to max capacity, open up another lead valve. Let pressure build again, then open up another one. And over time, when you do this, you'll eventually figure out like certain lead valves produce much better results than other ones. And that's really what you want, right? You want multiple lead sources producing consistent leads for you every single day. And you'll ultimately start to be able to use the 80-20 rule. You're going to figure out which lead sources produce the best results, the most economical results, and those are probably going to be the ones that you want to scale, right? And then there's going to be other ones that they don't produce anything or very little. They're not worth the headache. Those you shut off, and you'll find that most of your leads are going to come from one or two sources, and it's probably going to be the sources that you focus the most on, right? Those end up being the lead valves that work best. These strategies that you work consistently and you invest in and you work on them over and over, day in and day out. Those are the ones that are going to produce the most results for you. Funny how that works, right? Because I mentioned in the mindset session that this requires work. And if you didn't believe me then, you're probably going to believe me now. Like, this requires work. You have to work at it. But when you do work at it, like, results come. That's just what happens. All right. So how do you figure out which marketing plan is the best one for you to start with? Well, your personality type plays a role here. Kind of have, at least in sales, we call them hunters and trappers. So you're either a hunter or a trapper. Hunters enjoy hunting down leads. They like cold calling. They like door knocking, texting, networking. They enjoy that. Or even if they don't necessarily enjoy it, they're good at it. Trappers, on the other hand, they prefer sending out marketing and letting leads come to them. So if you're a trapper, direct mail, social media, SEO, content branding, those kind of things. That way leads come to you. One important point though, regardless of your personality type, with enough volume, you can succeed as a hunter or a trapper. Either one. Even if you absolutely suck at cold calling and you hate every minute of every hour of every day that you're making calls, if you just absolutely hate cold calling, if you do it for long enough, you will get qualified leads. And those leads, some of them will become deals. It's just an absolute fact. If you do it long enough, you will get deals. And your skills will get better as you do it, right? And as your skills get better, that becomes a multiplier effect. You start to learn faster. Now, naturally, if it fits your personality type, you'll learn faster than if it goes against your personality, because you'll enjoy it. That does play a factor. I'm just saying, just know that even if the best marketing plan for you, because of your situation, seems to go against your personality, you can still be highly successful. And eventually, you can even hire someone else to do that job for you. Third party, or bring someone in-house and hire it to do them for, and or open up another lead valve that is something that maybe you enjoy more. Now, on data, the images you see here, they're generic. They're going to vary by market too, depending on your situation. You might not be able to utilize certain types of marketing. Like if you're working full time, it's hard to put enough hours in to make cold calling work. You just have to call a lot of people. Not impossible. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it's going to be hard. You may really like the low cost per deal with texting, seeing that on that chart. But can you work through thousands of text messages every single week to make that work? You might not have the budget to commit to an effective direct mail or pay-per-click campaign because that requires a lot of upfront cost and you have to reach out to them multiple times. Do you have the budget to see that play out? Because if you don't, then it's going to be a waste of money. Now, in time, are you going to be building a marketing machine yourself or outsourcing it or both? Like, I mainly built an internal marketing machine. We have used outside agencies for various things, especially pay-per-click, but for the most part, we had it in-house. There's a benefit for doing both. It really depends on your situation. And I'm going to touch a little bit more on these going forward. But and then last, what are your goals? Like, how many deals do you want? If you want 2 or 3 deals a year, you can be a little bit more patient. How much time are you willing to spend working leads and handling conversations? These are all very, very important questions to ask. Now, myth: I can run a successful real estate business in today's market without spending money on marketing. You know, I've gone through seasons where I've tried to scale back in the marketing and rely on networking and wholesalers to bring me deals, and it did work for a while. But look, they're building their business too, and ultimately, I just saw their prices go up and up and up, and that, because it kind of fell out of what my criteria was, my deal flow dried up and my business suffered. But when you learn how to create funnels and lead valves for your ideal property type, your ideal type of deal, then you really create a more profitable and sustainable business because you're not relying on others. But deals from others should still be considered. It is still an additional lead valve. You just have to make sure that you're in control of your business's future. If you only rely on others, you're not in control. They are. You need to make sure that you're in control. And every time someone says, hey, I'm like, can't find any deals, it's like, well, how much are you spending on marketing? And then the response is like, man, this and that, and the thing is, and some excuse. Look, if you know it costs $5,000 for a deal and your average profit on a flip is 20 grand, how much would you spend on marketing? And I'm not saying 20 grand is a good deal for a flip, but I mean, and actually, how much would you spend on marketing if that was true? A lot, right? Now, don't completely ignore wholesalers and realtors. I know you don't want to rely on them, but you don't want to ignore them because, like, they can still bring you good deals. This is one of our most profitable flips. It came from an experienced wholesaler. Like, they were experienced. They knew what they were doing. And I remember I think I was about to leave town and they called me up and they're like, or sent me a text or whatever. And they're like, hey, got this deal. And I looked at it. I'm like, that looks like a good deal. I went over there quickly and called him back. I was like, hey, I'm leaving you an earnest money check. I'm locking this up. Made over $65,000 just on this deal from a wholesaler. Not bad, right? Not bad. So don't ignore them. Do the networking thing. You just can't leave your whole business up to someone else to bring you deals. Now, in the beginning, again, the rule of one. You don't need 5 forms of marketing. You just need one. And focus on it like crazy. Obsess over it. Keep focusing on that one until you get your first deal. Then continually improve until you can master it and you have consistent deal flow, and then start adding extra marketing lead valves. So what do you do when a lead comes in? Some people may be like really fearful of this. Some people may be really excited, like, oh, I got my first lead. What do you do? So the sales thing, it's kind of a whole class or weekend boot camp in itself. I'm gonna go over it quickly. You don't really need to overthink this. I have been through several sales trainings. They are helpful. Like, if you get the opportunity to take some, I recommend it. But at the end of the day, it comes down to being able to build rapport and trust quickly. They need to like and trust you. Be human, and then just be sincerely interested in them and solving their problem. That goes a long way. If you can do that, like, you can do this business. Find out their pain points. What are the real reasons that they're selling their house? And it's not just to sell their house, and it's not just about money. What are the real reasons behind them selling their house? And you're going to figure this out just by asking questions, and then show them how you can solve their problem in their time frame. Most people's time frame is not like close in 5 to 7 days. Like, hardly anyone that we dealt with needed to close that quickly. Just figure out their pain points and the real reasons to sell and how you can solve that problem in their time frame. And if you're a realtor, I recommend following the consultative sales approach, because this is where you can guide homeowners down just through questions and help them come up with the best solution for them to get their house sold. That may be them selling it to you as is for cash, maybe listing it. Either way, you both win. So when a lead comes in, fast response is absolutely critical. If they're calling you, someone needs to answer the phone. Either it's you, it's an employee, a lead setter of yours, some third-party service. I don't care who it is. Someone needs to answer the phone. I mean, you know what happens when you're trying to call like a service provider and you're looking for someone and some company to help you with something, and then they don't answer the phone. What do? You call the next one. There was a house we bought, had a flooded out car in the driveway. And I called a tow truck company, no answer. Called another one, no answer. Called another one, no answer. Called another one, finally got an answer. And they were able to help me out. So cool. Later on, some of those other tow truck companies called me back, but it didn't matter. They lost the business. I was done. Like, I needed someone to help me, and I got that solved. Everyone else who didn't answer their phone lost money. Just comes down to that. Same thing here. These people need something. You're spending time and energy and money on marketing, and they're reaching out to you. You've got to be there. You have to be there. Don't market if you can't do that, because you're just going to end up wasting money. So, and again, it doesn't have to be you. You can have a lead setter. You can have someone, a virtual assistant, or coworker, or business partner, whatever, do that for you. But someone's got to answer the phone. Now, if you have leads that are coming in through online, then you just need to make sure you're getting back with them within like 5 to 10 minutes, like super fast. So if they're sending you Facebook, Instagram messages, emails, online lead form or whatever, you got to get back to them ASAP. Otherwise, you're going to have a really high ghosting rate where you just never hear from them. Now, on that first call, your goal is not to buy the house. Your goal is just to get the appointment. That's all you want to do. So you can consider that a successful call if you can get the appointment. And you do want to get the appointment, regardless of, and especially in the beginning. You want to get the appointment on pretty much anyone that calls you, because you need the reps. You want to get the practice in. So even on calls that maybe they seem they're not motivated, they want full retail or whatever, and you're not a realtor where you could list it with them, help them list it. Go on the call anyway, because you need experience walking through houses, having that conversation, making offers. And it's a lot better to practice that when the stakes are low. Like if they're not a qualified lead, then stakes are pretty low. Like, probably not going to get that deal anyway. So go on that appointment. Stakes are low. Might as well practice on that one. So when that good deal does come, you get that really good high quality lead does come, and you go on that appointment, you're ready. Beyond that, it was our systems and processes to go on every single deal where there's equity. As long as there was equity or an opportunity where we could actually buy it, regardless of their motivation, we went on that deal. We went on that appointment anyway, because we've had deals where we made offers, they said no, and we bought it a long time, several months, after that point. And it was because we'd spent time with them. They liked us. They trusted us. We had a relationship. And when the time and circumstances change, because they do, then we were at top of the list. Now, as far as negotiating, establish rapport, negotiating should be done kitchen tables and the couch. Sitting not across from each other. You don't want to do that. You want to sit adjacent from one another. Find the pain points and agitate it while establishing trust. And by agitate, what I mean is you're asking questions. What if insert pain point doesn't get taken care of within the next couple of weeks. How else are you considering solving pain point? How else have you tried to but hasn't worked? It seems like you're okay with pain point even if this house doesn't sell. So you're just asking questions, helping them kind of frame their situation, and you're gathering more information on how you can help them. And they're telling you their real motivating reasons for wanting to sell their house. Now, while you're doing this, have this conversation, walking around the house, looking at the condition. Don't tell them their baby's ugly. Most people are pretty self-aware. They know their house is not, the nicest house on the block. You don't have to point out everything. It's unnecessary. You definitely want to take notice of it because this is going to go into your repair budget, but you don't have to point out all the blemishes. They know. And no does not mean no. No just means not now. And nearly 100% of your offers, cash offers, your low cash offers, are going to get rejected on the first offer. Like if they accept it right up front, like you probably offered too much, and you're definitely going to feel like you offered too much, and it's going to make you feel uneasy. Same thing for them. So they're almost always going to reject it. Be prepared for that. That's just where the conversation starts. So no doesn't mean no. And then even if you don't get a deal that day, there's so much fortune in the follow-up. Like I said before, we had that one property. Actually, he had two properties, and we made an offer on both of them at the same time. And he said no. Like it was pretty blunt. Like this is way off from what he wanted. It was like 2, 3, 4 months later, called us back, accepted our original offer, didn't even negotiate with us at that point because this time and circumstance, it changed. And we were at the top of the list. We spent time with him. He liked us. He trusted us. We followed up, got the deals. Now on follow-up, and this is really a powerful slide. It's true in marketing and sales. It takes multiple contacts to get a prospective lead to turn into an actual lead, especially a qualified lead, and prospects. And it takes multiple touch points before they'll convert often. It takes, really, in a perfect world, every lead like that you get come in, they're going to be a one-time close, right? That'd be great. It does happen, but it's pretty rare. Most of the time, it's going to take continuous follow-up after the fact. I mentioned I've had people call me back after we've made offers and ended up buying their house. But we've also had people who've called us after receiving our mailers for over a year. Right? That's because we were consistent with follow-up. You just have to be consistent, both on the marketing side, but also on the sales side. And that's what I was talking about before. Depending on your situation, you may not have the finances and the runway to see that play out and be consistent with direct mail and pay-per-click because it does cost more upfront money, which is why cold calling, cold texting, driving for dollars, those kind of things, door knocking might be a better strategy because you can do that more consistently depending on your budget and time situation. Now, the sad fact is most investors will give up early. Really just not even investors, just marketers in general. They're going to give up after the third contact. But there's been studies. I should have included that slide. The odds of conversion they don't even start to hockey stick up until after the third contact. That's when the odds of conversion really start to increase. So don't be like those investors where you give up at the third contact. Keep doing it. Stay consistent with your marketing, consistently market with them, and you'll have consistent deal flow. Now, be honest with yourself. You won't win every deal. And when you don't get the deal, it's your fault. Sometimes sellers they're going to get multiple offers. They're not going to tell you. They're going to make you think like you're the only one they're talking to, but they're getting multiple offers and they're going to choose the highest one. Don't even care. Highest offer wins. Some sellers are like that. Others, there's some other factor that maybe you weren't aware of that another investor figures out and they solve that problem. Like some sellers, they're just going to choose to go with a realtor. But most of the time when you lose a deal, they're going to ghost you. So they're not really going to tell you these things. Some circumstances you may figure it out, but they're typically not going to tell you these things. They're just going to ghost you. In those situations, you have to take extreme ownership of the situation and realize that it's your fault. It's your fault why you didn't get the deal. Now, this is why you want to do that. Because when it's your fault, you have control over how you react to that situation. From that point, you can start reflecting on how you could have handled the situation better. Could you have had a better experience for that lead when they first contacted your company? How could you have had a better experience for them during the initial conversations and the appointment? What questions could you have asked that you didn't ask? What could you have done better with your offer, your presentation of your offer, and how you presented it to them? What about reflecting on all of those questions and taking notes and then seeing where the lessons are? That's what you want to do. You want to reflect on your losses, take ownership. It's your fault. Start asking these questions, reflect on it, take notes, learn the lesson, and try it again. That's how you get better. So, how do 9 out of 10 businesses fail? Well, because they didn't build an effective and consistent marketing strategy. Really, the only other possible reason is that your sales process sucks. But in reality, when you have enough leads coming in, you can still suck at sales and make a lot of money. It's just true. As long as you're answering inbound leads live or responding to other sources like online forums, like within 5 to 10 minutes of initial contact, and you're following the basic outlines that I talked about a couple slides ago, the sales process it's pretty simple. They're people, your people. Just have a genuine conversation with them, get to know their pain points, and help them understand how you can solve their problem. And of course, follow up. Now, remember, biggest takeaway of today, the rule of one: pick one form of marketing and work it until you get your first deal. Then get better, continually get better at it till you master it, and then start considering moving on or stacking another form of marketing on top of it. You don't want to become a statistic. Pick your marketing strategy and dominate. Don't be one of the investors that just stops, gives up, quits, and they shut their business down. Always be marketing. Now that wraps up the deal flow part of this masterclass. Next time, I'm going to cover estimating repairs. So you're going to learn how to estimate repairs so you can make offers with confidence. So I look forward to seeing you then.